What do we do? Shortening this cuff, but our challenge is this functioning buttonhole. You can here, if it's shortening by like 1 or 2 centimeters, you can just redo like that. But this one is shortening, I think, with 6. So we're going to have to just undo this whole thing, shift it up here, and you see we already started putting in a basting stitch for the shoulder pad. If it has, sometimes, I'll open up a small piece here or here somewhere just to look and see what kind of situation is going on the inside to decide first. This one I was just feeling it from the outside, but you can see there's no horsehair, so it's just fusing up. So then, like you're doing there, we're just doing a baste on the shoulder pad, and then we'll unpick the rest of this lining. Unpicked it. So here there's nothing too exciting to do. Just give it a little bit of an iron so we don't have that corner there. And of course you'll just pull out all of this. And here, such an important thing that I completely forgot about that Alba remembered is to just put a little mark there. Where's your center? You see, these guys did actually notch, but sometimes people don't notch. So just to put a mark there, so you mark the center, and then here, oh, this is the back here, no? What are we marking here?
Front.
Oh, you're just marking which side is the front.
No, I think this is the, yeah, it's this side. With these notches, it's here.
Interesting. Because here we've got this one, and this notch is for what?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Having 2 notches.
I
Yeah,
see.
it's 2 notches here.
Okay. Oh, I see. There and there. Okay. That's super awesome. So, yeah, it depends on how extra I'm feeling that day. Usually I'll just mark the center here where this one is joining. And then the bottom one where that one's joining. This one is pretty well notched. So fortunately, we're just going to keep those notches because like those two are now going to match in here with these two there. So we'll just maintain those notches. So what we're going to do, this portion here, we're going to check. This is the front. Just going to put an F there for front. You can take that out. Then here, if it's got a gather stitch like this, we're then going to unpick that gather stitch so that we can iron this flat. And then you'll iron that flat, and here just give it a bit of an iron. So these ones, this is why we put that base there, so that we can iron that without the shoulder pad running around too much. And here, maybe we put just one pin there, because you see it's already coming undone there. We've ironed all of that. We've taken these 2 portions out. And I think they were, stitched there with one gather stitch and then gathered one time, isn't it?
Yeah, it was gathered, yeah.
And these have the same notches as on the sleeve, which is really great. But that doesn't often happen. So yeah, I'm really grateful that you thought about that, remembered to put your notches here. And then also, depending on how extra I feel, when this is here, no, other way around, I'll also, mark on here on the garment, where are my seams. But for this one, we're just going to follow the notches that they gave to us. But yeah, in future, that's so important to mark where's our center, and then where does that seam join, where does this seam join, just so we can bring it back like that. But now we've got that all done, we've ironed that out. So number one is to check, just line the seams up a little bit. And you'll see here, there's that fold that we were talking about. So you don't want to pull this so that the fold is gone. See, this one's actually caught over there, so you can't even. But you want this still to be loose here. You don't want to pull it too tight so that it's too tight there. You want this still to be loose. So I'm just going to actually hold that and just see where all of this is falling. And you see here, we've got usually like 1.5 centimeters extra. 1.5 to 2 centimeters. And on the top, usually a little bit less, but we can put 1.5 all over and not stress too much from there. So it's just important to take note of this because of how we're going to attach the lining later on. So we've got all of that. Tommy, Alba, are we having any questions, any emotions at this time? So I'm going to get rid of the lining there. This one I'm going to take inside out. Also get rid of the lining. We want to put these two together so that seams are matching, so that this whole thing is matching. Making sense? It can be right sides together, wrong sides together, doesn't really matter, as long as they're now touching each other like this. And we're now going to check. We need to less with 7 centimeters. So we start at this top one, and we're going to measure straight down 7. Let's see. It's always a bit of a challenge to see which one we're going to do. We can start at this top one. Doesn't really matter as long as, here we go, it's going to be a bit easier. And now that's more or less exactly under that notch. So we want to see, where's this notch? Does this notch come all the way through? They notched it and then fused it afterwards. So now we want to match that notch with that 7. And we should then be on the bottom also exactly 7 centimeters down. And again, going with that notch. So we start top and bottom. That notch is about there. This notch, so I'm just going to pull it over, make sure this notch is lining up. And then we can kind of shift around here, lining up these seams. See this? We've got a little bit of a bubble there, which probably means this is not 100% straight. And I can see it here now that I look at it. It should actually be maybe about here. This is quite a tough one. So you just got to be moving your stuff around the whole time. Let's just see, there's that notch. Because we want this to lay as flat as possible. But remember also, the further down the sleeve we're going, the smaller it's going to get. So it is quite, well, yeah, you should see that here, as we go down, this one becomes tighter than this one. Because we're now going lower on the sleeve. So you see here, we can then start to get our new shape. And you see this one is a little bit tighter. You can see it there. You see, this under one is tighter, just because we're going down the sleeve. And we can also check what was their seam allowance, 1 centimeter. Just so that we can make sure we keep that in mind as we go. Then again here, trying to match up that seam as best we can. So again, I had to just introduce a bit of a bubble there, just because the under one is now smaller, because we're going down and down and down. Further down you go, the worse it's going to get. And you just try and leave it as flat as possible. So the real trick with this one, you can see here, we actually only reduce with 2.5, maybe even 2.25, even though the full measurement is 7. Okay, so that's more or less our shape. And now let's go around with the notches. A notch there. We've got this notch. I'm just going to make sure we know it's that one and not that one.
There is a notch here.
So notch just here. And now, when we put this back onto the sleeve, just be emotionally prepared. It's not going to be exact. But these notches are going to give us a good guide as to where we're going. Okay. So now, also as we're going, we check that we have made this a little bit smaller. Now, it's a bit of a gamble. How much smaller is too small? So we're going to see when we join it on the sleeve, what is going to be the final. So now it really depends what you want to do. For me, the easiest is just to cut down here. And of course, I have to double check myself to make sure I wasn't drinking on the job. 7 centimeters, yeah, we're lessing with 7 centimeters. Oh, and one thing. So, with that, with the fact that this is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, if it now has become too small, we're going to alter this seam here on the forearm. So if we alter that seam, obviously the shape will be a bit different. So here, I'm just not going to cut about 1 centimeter. I'm just going to leave an extra centimeter there in case we have to alter that seam. Do you think one day we'll actually get over all of this nervousness of cutting? Or
then there's the allowance is there.
Yeah, because remember I'm measuring here from allowance to allowance. So here's your stitch line. So the next stitch line must be 7 centimeters down. See, there it is. So we've got that allowance. So here, because I measure from the allowance is automatically included. So I don't have to stress about that. But yeah, if you want to do it that way, then measure from stitch line to stitch line, add your allowance. But I would say for a shape like this, it's going to be a bit tough because it's going to be easier because we need to use this shape to get that shape. And this shape has the seam allowance. So if we had to now, like we were doing, to fold it up, it might drive you a little bit crazy. And now, of course, I'm super extra, so I'm just going to cut maybe a 1/4 centimeter above, just because I'm stressed. So this is going to be now our new shape. And here I'm just leaving that extra centimeter in case we have to do an alteration, and then we can shape that one time. So now on this one, I was not conscientious enough, so let's do a bit of a redo and make sure that our notches are just also marked on this one. A lot of times I don't actually remember every little last thing. I see it as I go, which I think is what drives people crazy, including myself. You've got a last notch there. Okay. So then we can take this and again matching seam to seam, or seam to seam. You could turn it around, you can remain, where am I? There I am. You can remain wrong sides together, whatever, doesn't really matter. We're now just gonna pin this one. You could also have put them together and cut it one time. Whatever's gonna work for you. So obviously we'll do that and then we'll just be transferring our notches again to make sure that now notches are all over. So we'll carry on with that. And then this, again, matching our seams. And now this one, I'm just going to measure with my eye, about 1.5 centimeters. all the way around. You see how much that one moved. So here I'm obviously just going to put another pin. Maybe another pin here. Then just mark that 1.5 centimeters all around. Then we'll cut that. Here I'm not going to be very fussy about this alteration because it's on the lining. So if it's not very straight, no one's going to die. And already we have that 1.5 centimeters extra. So the only thing we're going to be fussy about is making sure our notches also go through. Our sleeve cap in there, we just used the original notches. And Alba has just done a long stitch over there that we can use to gather. Before we gather, I'm going to look and see how this matches up on our, let's leave that in there, on our jacket. So there's nothing really revolutionary about it, just matching seams. If we don't have to adjust that front seam, then let's not do it. But if we have to, we have to. That's just life. So let's see. We've got those two. Okay, that's actually quite a bit of a gather there. Not sure if that's actually correct. Does look like that. Down here is that notch. It's going to go up there. So down here we don't really have a gather, which is good. That's what we expect. Front portion. These are two notches, and these are two notches. Yeah, there is quite a bit of gather there, you see. So I don't feel we have to make the sleeve bigger. Yeah, and then there, it's going to match quite nicely onto the original. So you see here, if I match everything up until past the gather, and then I just keep matching, you see the jacket is going to be bigger than the sleeve here. Because, as I say, we've cut down, 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 down. So here, you know, instead of now opening this, all of that, we can just gather this less. So we can start from the center bottom notch and just guide that up. And then we'll see here, by the time we get to the top, let's see. So our notch now is maybe a centimeter. You can see that from the original notch to the new notch, maybe about a centimeter low. So then we'll just make sure on the other sleeve it's the same. And on the back, I don't think the back looks like it fits perfectly. So then just on the front, we know the notch must be 1 centimeter low. Okay. And then we'll be fine from there. So, of course, it would be easier to take all of this out and do the gather, but I'll just be extra. Just gathering that up. So I like to gather it to an insane level, and then from there start spreading it out. Here at the center top, you don't really want to gather, or a very small gather. And then front and back, we can have a good gather depending on how well this is fitting in the sleeve. Okay, let's see. How does that gather work for us? Here's our center. Okay, now the front edge, we decided that we're just going to match. I'm going to keep going. And I can just see with my eyes, you see there, that's going to fit quite nicely. So I don't have to gather it anymore. And back, I'm going to do the same. Just matching it from that underarm notch. Going around. And this one. So I can gather a little bit more. I don't really want to gather more than that. So actually what I'm going to do for the back is just give it a bit of ease. All the way around from this center bottom notch. And it's just a little bit of ease, just to get a bit of that bulk to move further down the sleeve. So I don't have to gather like an insane person right there at the back. And that's going to fit a bit better. All right, so I'm going to go around and put an extra pin in between here just to keep this bubble from forming a pleat. And also what I'm going to do is just check how my seams are falling. I measure like tip to tip. So here on the back, put it 1 centimeter, maybe 3/4 centimeter. And then here in the front, from that tip to that tip, it's going to be 3.5. So just need to make sure that on the other side, it's exactly the same. You're just going to go and stitch that with a 1 centimeter seam. Is I like to do a back stitch because that gives us still a little bit of motion. So I'm going to stitch reasonably close to the stitching, but just come back so that there's still a little bit of movement there, but it is also quite nice and firm. And I never do this by machine. I feel the machine is going to squash it. Unless you have a special machine that doesn't squash, which we don't at this time. But yeah, I'm sure you're going to be fine with that. So you're going to attach that. Here I'm just going to knot off. You'll continue with the rest. Just going to finish that one. You know, me, I would now, like I was saying, I would join all of this by hand with quite a loose stitch. And then iron this one up and stitch it there by hand. But if you're a professional person, look at that. Just stitch that by machine through here. So tell me your secret, Alba. How? Because I think my biggest fear is that I'm going to end up twisting this.
No, the thing, the way I pin it, I'm just following. When I'm stitching, I'm revising what I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Even when I pin.
So you're going to come, let's see. Let's see if I can do it like the master.
No, for this one is not open.
Okay. Let's open that one quickly and check it out. I'm too curious, Alban. Okay. And something else you did that's super clever is just to lock that stitch there.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, with all of this opening and closing, ends up getting out of control. Okay, so because I've never been able to put a lining through the hole like this, through the hole in the sleeve. So let's see.
It's better like that, but when it's gonna be difficult, maybe when you attach with a shoulder pad like that, because it's gonna be heavy to twist it around.
I see.
And then when it's simple, when it's only a lining.
Okay, interesting. So I come from here.
Yeah.
Oh, and I suppose I just attach like that. I just join those notches.
You follow the notches,
and then you just
twist
follow.
it like. Then,
Okay.
Then you pull this to make a space just to turn.
Yeah, well,
pull this.
Okay, interesting. And then here you also just get in there and join those little tabs. These.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it like that.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, that's an amazing method, and much faster than by hand, of course. But yeah, I don't think there's anything really else to say. After that, closing the lining, and there you shorten the sleeve on the shoulder. Thank you so much, Alba. I love